Welcome, students. Today we are going to pick up from where we left off in our last discussion, which was dealing with the Industrial Revolution. Last screencast, we talked about really the Industrial Revolution starting in the North, developing the factory system, what that looked like for cities in the North, some of the inventions, some of the key players. Today is going to really focus on the Industrial Revolution in the South and then some other advancements at home. So Eli Whitney is the first guy I want to talk about. So Eli Whitney invented something called the cotton gin in 1793, and this basically de-seeded or cleaned the cotton, making the process of picking all those seeds out of the cotton much, much easier. The word gin in cotton gin, G-I-N, is short for engine. And an enslaved African could clean 50 pounds of cotton per day prior to the cotton gin. 50 pounds of cotton per day with the cotton gin. Prior to that, it was 1 pound per day. So the cotton gin increased the production by 50-fold. And you can see here on the diagram, the cotton goes in with the seeds. It gets cranked through these little metal teeth. The seeds pop out, and then out comes the nice clean cotton. So cotton production increases by 800% due to the cotton gin. This is what we call the cotton boom. The phrase cotton is king became popular in the South. Cotton surpasses tobacco and rice as the number one cash crop. The United States becomes the number one exporter of cotton in the world by far, 75% of the world's cotton. Now, the idea of the cotton gin was it was designed by Eli Whitney to improve the life of enslaved Africans and maybe decrease the need for them because you could increase the production time. It ended up having the reverse effect. Because we could now clean cotton so quickly, more and more cotton was planted, more and more land was taken from the Native Americans, and so therefore there actually became an influx of enslaved Africans. The slave trade ticked up, and the price of adult male slaves increased. So it really had the reverse effect of what it was designed to have. So Eli Whitney designed this to hopefully scale back slavery, and it ended up kind of backfiring or not doing what it was intended. And slavery actually increases from 1793 through into the 1800s, which is going to lead us towards our Civil War. Some other advancements during the Industrial Revolution from the 1830s to 1850s specifically. So we're looking at a couple of decades here. Better farm equipment. In addition to, as we already mentioned, the cotton gin, we have something called the mechanical reaper, which was invented by Cyrus McCormick. Think of this as a big mower, if you will. It basically cuts down wheat. Used to take 20 hours per acre of wheat. It was very difficult to harvest. Now you're looking at 1 hour per 1 acre. So again, a 20-fold improvement using the mechanical reaper. You've probably heard of John Deere tractors. Well, John Deere was actually a farmer and entrepreneur who invented the cast iron steel plow. And the idea here was to create a plow that was more lightweight and didn't get stuck in the earth as much as the solid iron blades that didn't have steel in them, and it was light enough to be pulled by horses, so you didn't need a team of oxen. And then he became an entrepreneur and started selling them, and the John Deere Corporation lives on today, 180 years later. Some changes at home. Isaac Singer and Elias Howe invented and improved the sewing machine. Sewing machines used to be super large, but as you can see, the Singer sewing machine is basically the size of a desk, and they were able to shrink down that so people could have sewing machines in their home. Ice boxes, while not a machine necessarily like we think of, it is a machine today where you plug it in and you've got your refrigerator and freezer. These were not electrical, obviously, because they hadn't really developed the use of electricity and outlets and stuff like that yet. But these ice boxes were basically, as you can see on the screen, different chests with different compartments, and you put large blocks of ice in there, and then you could safely store food in there, fresh food. Not going to be able to store it as long as we can today with our refrigerators and freezers, but it might last them a couple of days, whereas before, whatever they caught or killed, they pretty much needed to eat that day. Matches. Something as simple as matches were not invented until the 1830s. Iron cook stoves, instead of cooking over an open fire, you basically have a flame comes up to then a kind of an iron stovetop, and you cook on top of it. Water system, public water systems, indoor water pumps. You think about being able to not have to go outside to get your water, and that started in hotels. Paying guests did not want to go outside to, put water into a pail and then carry it up to their room to make themselves a warm bath. And then vulcanized rubber, a more durable form of rubber, is invented by a guy named Charles Goodyear. You've probably heard of the Goodyear blimp or Goodyear tires, named after Charles Goodyear. A variety of purposes for the vulcanized rubber. We'll actually watch a video clip on Charles Goodyear's invention later in the week. The safety pin, you can imagine all the uses. It actually was invented by somebody whose button popped off of his pants while he was mining for gold, and he took a piece of wire and he poked it through where his button would be and then twisted it. The invention of the safety, invention of the safety pin. Probably became a billionaire because of it. Clocks. While clocks were not invented during this time, interchangeable parts, which we talked about in yesterday's lesson, made clocks a lot cheaper to be produced. Basically, you didn't have to replace the entire clock. You just had to replace the part that was broken in the clock. So the price of a clock went from $50 to $1.50. So think about the deflation of price there. That is incredible. Think about something that costs $50 today. Heck, tennis shoes don't even cost that, but we'll go with tennis shoes. Imagine getting, a pair of tennis shoes. You go and you get a pair of shoes for $50. Well, imagine after a few years, all of a sudden the price of a pair of tennis shoes was $1.50. That's a huge deflation in price. Transportation revolution. So factories and plantation owners really needed to be able to get their products from point A to point B, and get those around the country and across the ocean as quickly as possible. So we have what are called canals being built. The most important canal that you've probably heard of is the Erie Canal, at least here in North America, connecting Lake Erie to the Hudson River. The Hudson River then empties out into the Atlantic Ocean. So you've essentially connected the Atlantic Ocean to the interior of our nation, which is the Great Lakes region. So it's a man-made waterway, basically connecting two existing waterways. Railroad companies. Railroad companies became the most powerful businesses in the world. When you control the flow of products, you're going to make a lot of money, and the railroad companies did that. Railroads were also responsible for getting people to move out west, much quicker. And that came a little bit later in the 1860s. Steamboats. River travel, very, very important during this time. Traveling upstream was very difficult. It was very expensive. It could be very dangerous. But the steam engine then attached to a boat created what's known as the steamboat and allowed the price of river travel to decrease, and then also it made it a lot more safe. And then the clipper ship. The clipper ship was basically a fast ocean vessel that had more sails, a sleeker design, and really cut down on the speed of travel across the Atlantic Ocean, getting products from here to there. The first, what you would think of as highway, it's called the National Road, and it ran from Cumberland, Maryland to Vandalia, Illinois, almost 600 miles long, known as either the National Road or the Cumberland Road. They also started using turnpikes. Turnpikes were basically spikes laid out on the ground, and they wouldn't turn those spikes over until you paid a fee or a toll to get by, and then they would use that money to help improve the road. So if you've ever driven through a toll booth before on the highway and your parents have to give money, that's a turnpike, and that word comes from turning the spikes over. So turnspikes, that became turnpikes. Communication revolution. Samuel Morse was a successful painter and sculptor who then turned into inventing something called the telegraph machine, which was a set of electrical wires that you tap out a coded message, and the code travels through the electrical wires to another telegraph operator, as they were called. And it's a series of dots and dashes. You can see that on the screen. Certainly the most famous Morse code message is SOS, which means save our ship or save our souls. And so you tap that out, ... dash, 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 dot, dot, dot. And the difference between dots and dashes you will see on a video clip this week as well. So if you ever get in trouble, just tap it out. Dot, 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 which sounds like this. Dash, 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 dot, dot, dot. So SOS. Save our ship, save our souls if you're ever in distress. The Telegraph basically allowed East and West to connect to each other, so you're not leaving your family for good. Businesses could conduct their operations much more efficiently. A lot of the telegraph wires were put along railroad tracks. Many of the railroad tracks were in the north part of our nation. Again, if you got factories in the north, you need the railroads in the north. And then you have the telegraph in the north. So the north and the south were starting to develop very differently economically. A lot of factory and industry in the north, still a lot of farming and agriculture in the south. Still both being very successful, but in two very different ways, which is going to continue to lead to our sectionalism and lead us towards our Civil War. Cities began to change, these mega cities. Disease starts spreading quickly, muddy, dirty roads, lack of sewers, garbage in the streets, fire spreading quickly. Crime rate goes up. There's no police force. Gambling, horse racing, museums, plays, and circuses become the main entertainment. And then these mega cities develop. The urban or city population triples in the 50 years from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution to the end of the Industrial Revolution. And that's all I have today on Industrialization Part 2. Thank you for watching.